For shame, Heathcliff, she said. It's for God to punish wicked people. We should learn to forgive. No, God won't have the satisfaction that I shall, he returned. I only wish I knew the best way. Let me alone, and I'll plan it out. While I'm thinking of that, I don't feel pain. A famous quote from the classic Wuthering Heights. And this remains true since the beginning of time. And so, once upon a time. Kanha plunged back into the Yamuna one last time before he turned around and began to walk towards the bank of the river. Sitting under the tree while the horses were fed and the attendants oiled the chariots, Akrur watched the magnificent sight of Kanha stepping out of the river. He couldn't help the smile on his face as he thought how much this young boy had grown. Kanha's muscles rippled in the morning sun, and the droplets of water that ran down his body sparkled like millions of diamonds. His long hair, angelic eyes, his dark complexion. Akrur knew he was the incarnation of Vishnu, and if he was not, then there was no Vishnu. Kanha walked up to Akrur and sat by his side. He had been waiting for this journey to Mathura ever since he was born. He knew it was going to happen, and the fact was that he had engineered it, though no one would ever know that. Kansa knew that he was Devki's eighth born and wanted him out of the way before the prophecy came true and Kanha killed him. He couldn't send his demonic assassins anymore, so he had engineered a wicked plan. Call the boy to Mathura and challenge him to wrestle with the dreaded Chanur, which for a 16-year-old Kanha was akin to a death sentence. Kanha had accepted the challenge. He knew it was time for the face-off with Kansa, but more than that, it was time to free his mother and father from Kansa's prison. Have you met my mother? Kanha asked Akrur. Yes, I have, often. Why do you ask? What does she look like? Can you paint a picture of her for me? Kanha asked with a smile. Akrur smiled back. He really had no idea if Kanha already knew what she looked like and was only playing with him, or if he genuinely wanted to know. And so he told himself that it was no use thinking about what Kanha knew. Perhaps no one in the world would know what he knows. Your mother is a very beautiful woman. Even after all the tragedy that has befallen her, she is still glorious in her grace. Akrur tried to paint the best picture of her that he could. You have your mother's eyes and lips, you know, Kanha. Kanha smiled and urged him to go on with the gesture. She's petite, not very tall. Her complexion sparkles, and in the light of the lamps at night, she looks like she's made of alabaster. Her hair is very long, almost to her knees. Did he pull her with that hair? Kanha asked out of the blue. Akrur lost the scent of the conversation and looked at Kanha confused. I've heard that Kansa pulled my mother by a hair from the chariot she was on, then dragged her by a hair through the palace and locked her up because of a prophecy on the day of her marriage. Is that true? Did he pull her by the hair? Did he drag her? Akrur was taken aback by the sudden change in the tone of the conversation. He had no other answer but the honest one. Yes, he did. How did you know this? Akrur was finding it hard to talk about Devki's pain and humiliation to her very own son. You forget that the palace was filled with Yadav men and women who have not forgotten what happened. Kanha reminded Akrur, and Akrur nodded. Kanha was right. Is it true that he put my mother in chains? that her wrists and ankles bled. Kanha shot another question at Akrur, who could only stare in return. Kanha did not take his eyes off Akrur till after a pained moment, Akrur nodded. Is it true that he took my mother's newborns, my brothers and sisters, and smashed their heads against the wall while my mother cried and begged and wailed in terror? Akrur saw the tears of anger run down Kanha's face. He had never before seen rage like this. But did God feel so much? Did God cry? He nodded again in response to Kanha's question, unable to trust his own voice. Why are you doing this to yourself, Kanha? Please don't pain yourself so much, Akrur beseeched. Pain is where all revenge is born, Uncle Akrur. Hate is good. Hate keeps a man alive. When I see my Uncle Kansa's face, I don't want to stop hearing my mother's screams in my ears. I don't want to stop seeing her bloodied wrists and ankles. And I don't want to stop seeing her tears. To beat a man bigger and better than you, you don't need muscle or money. You just need enough anger. I'm going to tear Mathura apart. Kansa will have to answer for every tear that my mother has shed. Then the messenger informed Kansa that Kanha was on his way with Akrur. Kansa had no idea why he was filled with fear. He was also certain that his throne shook a bit, but he could not understand why.